Democratic forces keep pushing a specific assault on the Republican presidential candidates, namely that the Republicans are engaged in a proverbial, quote, war on women. But is it sticking? In the latest Washington Post ABC News poll, look at this general election matchup among women voters supporting President Obama, 57%, to Mitt Romney's 38%, a double-digit gap. My panel today, CQ roll calls, David Hawkings, former Obama White House Deputy Communications Director Jennifer Psaki, and National Review's Ramesh Ponnuru, who's also a columnist for Bloomberg View. Okay, the gender gap, you believe, alive and well, but is it actually that new? I want to read you something here from Stu Rothenberg, who said, Romney can't win the White House, even if he's winning only 40% of the female voters nationally or 36% of female voters from the 10 swing states. But it's equally true that Romney can't defeat Obama if the Republican carries men by only 3 points, as he does in Gallup's most recent national poll, or by a single point, as he does in the most recent swing state poll. He went through this and noted, look, there's been a gender gap in favor of the Democrats for women for over a decade now. The more important gap may be men.
Well, look, in the last poll, in the USA Today poll, Barack Obama was still winning by almost 20 points among women. So that's significant. But beyond that, contraception is the tip of the iceberg. There are a lot of issues we're going to be talking about during this campaign, including access to affordable health care, paying for early childhood education, providing assistance to, children who are going to college.
So your goal is to create this wedge. Your goal is to keep doing this.
It's not about creating a wedge, Chuck. It's about every election is a choice. And this choice for women is President Obama, who's done a lot to fight for not only their rights, but to help fight for issues they care about, and Mitt Romney, who just doesn't seem to get it. So,
David, let me ask you this. What on these polls, though, I mean, to go back to what Stu was writing about, it's this. He's sitting there going, wait a minute, the news that's staring me in the face is Romney's got a man problem.
He's got a big man problem.
I mean, it's actually might have a bigger male problem than he does.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm trying to square that with the likability numbers in the other poll about if he's got this 20, whatever it is.
40 points.
40 points, 2 to 1, better than 2 to 1 on likability. It seems like he's not, the typical American male doesn't understand who he is or what he's about either.
That's where you think that's where this is all
And
coming.
so it seems to me that he's got to do a better job on that one than maybe even with women.
When it comes to you're Mitt Romney, what do you got to fix first? Okay, you heard Mike Murphy talking about, you got this Hispanic problem. That's clearly a problem in the western swing states. You do have a gender gap problem. Is there a livable form of the gap? At what point is a survivable form of the gender gap? You got the likability problem that may be creating this man. So what do you fix first?
I think what you don't do is obsess about the size of the gender gap. The problem is the overall level that Romney's at in the polls, and I take that to be the implicit message of Stu Rothenberg in that column. Look, John Kerry won women in 2004. We never called him President Kerry. You're always going to do better among men than among women as a Republican. You're always going to do better among women than among men as a Democrat. The problem isn't the size of the gap. The problem is how he's doing overall. And I think a large part of this is simply that he's just been through a bruising, ugly primary where there's been charges and countercharges, where they haven't been targeting Obama so much as each other, and where there's been a lot of negative campaigning. You take all that out of the equation and you start focusing more on the general election going forward. I think some of those numbers are going to change. And if the Obama folks are taking comfort from these polls, so much the better.
I want to ask you about that, Jen. There was yesterday BuzzFeed did a story, and it talked about a cocky Obama campaign. How concerned are you? Axelrod wouldn't call it cocky. He said there is a complacency among donors. How concerned are you?
Look, I think anybody who's close to the president is concerned, because this is a long time we have to go before November, and it's going to be a very tough fight. It's going to be a hard-fought fight. And you saw Jim Messina a couple of weeks ago put out an email to supporters saying, this is going to be tight. We need every dollar. We need every volunteer. And I think that's the message you're going to be hearing a lot from the campaign, because they're well aware this is going to be a close election in November.
And David, watching this, though, and watching the Romney campaign try to get into general election mode and basically play catch-up here a little bit. And there's much to Obama's campaign that feels like Bush in '04. And it made Murphy and I wonder, when was the last time where the better campaign apparatus lost the election?
Oh, wow.
And we couldn't, he went back to Ford. He basically said that's the last time where the better apparatus, campaign apparatus, lost the election.
Well, sure, I'll agree with that. I guess you wouldn't say Gore.
You wouldn't say Gore. Bush was running a very tactical. It's all on tactical.
Just on the tactics.
Yeah.
Yes, you'd say Jerry Ford and Jimmy Carter, yes.
And that's the big challenge here for Mitt Romney.
Although when you look like your smarter tactical campaign.
Do you think some of that gets rewritten a little bit?
Everything looks better. All your little mistakes become huge gaffes when you're having a bad time in politics.
You're a veteran, and Kerry, do you buy that?
You know, look, I think that the thing that's going for Obama beyond the messaging, which of course I am strongly supportive of, is the fact that they have the best organization on the ground. And, you know, nobody's really looked closely at what Romney has going state to state, where he's targeting. I'm sure we will over the next couple of months. But the ground operation, the investment in that, which happened in 2008, will be the same case in 2012. And that's really the heart and soul of the organization.
All right, David, Jen, Ramesh, stick around. Trivia time.